Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday Afternoon Live webinar. I am Jasmine from Recommend.my, Malaysia's leading home services platform. We connect customers to home improvement and home maintenance guys like aircon service, cleaners, renovation contractors, disinfection experts, not just in Malaysia, but in Indonesia and Thailand as well. The property industry in Malaysia has been facing many challenges in recent years, with slowing economic growth, lower affordability, leading to a plateauing or even decreasing property prices in some places. Year 2019 actually did pretty well in terms of property sales, driven by the home ownership campaign, where buyers would get nice discounts and not have to pay stamp duty. However, year 2020 began with COVID-19 coming in, wiping out most of the travel and short-term industry, with an expected GDP contraction of 2%, the wider economic impact is likely to see businesses close or scale down and expats slowly returning to their own countries, further decreasing rental yields in the country. In addition to that, we saw some political instability, right, scaring off foreign investors from our lands. So today, I have with me some pretty heavyweights in the property industry. We have Benjamin Ong, the COO of Meng Group, one of the largest and most active property developers in Malaysia. Alvin Ong, who leads PropEdge in Malaysia, EdgeProp in Malaysia. Wei from Speedhome, a rental platform, and Gadiy from Bumbung, a property sales platform. I'll let them introduce themselves, but between these gentlemen, they cover the whole spectrum from the design, build, and sale of homes and properties to selling them, renting them, and then reporting on the industry. So Benjamin, why don't you start, and then we can continue on to Alvin, Wei, and then Gadiy.
Hey guys, and thank you, Jasmine, for your invitation to this platform. Happy to be here. I'm representing Meng. So right here, yeah, I mean, we do from head to tail, all the way from looking for land and all the way to down to your security and cleaning. So if there's any questions, we're happy to share with you our experiences here and how we are dealing with this pandemic and how we're going to come out of it. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jess, for having me. To our viewers, thanks for joining us. I'm Alvin from EdgeProp. We are a property portal to help home buyers get the most out of their home buying journey. So we do this in two ways. Our platform connects buyers to agents and developers. For secondary listings, we offer a freemium model, so with virtually unlimited listings for licensed agents so that our users get the best possible choices. Secondly, we also leverage our roots as a media company to not only provide news, but also access to current information such as past transacted prices, value estimates for almost every home in Klang Valley, Penang, and Johor, area trends, and various other guides to help home buyers make a more informed decisions in terms of finding and buying a home.
Right. Thanks everyone. I'm Wei Meng. I'm founder of Speedhome. Speedhome is a platform that connects landlord and tenant to rent direct. Recently, we allow people to sell houses as well, but our key focus is still on rental, where we offer end-to-end solution, where it comes from listing, signing tenancy agreement, and rental collection as well. So we provide a full spectrum of services to landlords to empower them to do rental in an easy manner.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Jasmine, for having me. I'm Gadiy. I'm the co-founder of Bumbung.co. We are actually a platform that market beautiful homes, high-end beautiful homes here in the Klang Valley. So we cover areas such as CTDI, Country Heights, Tropicana, Bangsa, Damansara Utama. So mostly we deal with residential housing. We don't really touch rental, but for us, we are focusing more on the transaction process. Yeah.
Got it. Well, thank you so much, guys. I think some of you might have seen Wei Meng's face on the highway, the very yellow ads, very shiny head. So these guys are already famous in their own right? So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Well, here are some of our questions, right? So we aim to be as objective, as straightforward as possible to give our viewers real value from watching this, right? So the property space has already seen some ups and downs in recent years. Then COVID-19 came and made everything seemingly worse. Now, is this true? Is it really worse? Can you tell us how these metrics have changed? Maybe Alvin can give us an overview of the data you've been collecting in the market, and the rest can comment on as well. I'm looking for things like property prices, number of transactions, rental yields, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think, Jess, you're absolutely right. I think the industry has seen its fair share of challenges in the past couple of years, but what we saw in the past couple of months, the complete pause of pretty much all activities, including the supply chain, is perhaps the worst the industry has seen. But the thing is, it takes up to 6 months for transactions to be published. So we won't know for sure the quantum of changes in terms of volume and prices. But if you look at enquiries, right, we've seen on our listing platform a drop of up to 80%, in property enquiries the week MCO was announced. So for example, if we've been receiving about 10 to 15,000 leads a week, at its lowest, we were seeing 2 to 3K. But fortunately, it's been picking up quite steadily since then, and we're seeing close to pre-MCO numbers now. Now, in terms of asking prices, we don't see any significant changes for existing inventories, although we did see an increase in listings below market value. And this makes, to me, this makes intuitive sense, because we're essentially seeing a pause in market activity. We are not seeing, or we don't expect a fire sale situation where everyone rushes to sell. And logically, when there are so few transactions, it's just harder for prices to change. Now if you put this together, does it paint an encouraging picture? I personally won't make too much out of what is essentially a few dots in the chart, but it does indicate some sort of rebound in buying appetite. And well, obviously, I think there are question marks, right? Will all these enquiries or bookings translate to actual sales? What happens in October when the loan moratorium ends? I think these are the questions that we are grappling with as we reset our budgets and projections moving forward.
That makes sense, actually. Okay, maybe, I don't know, Benjamin, can you comment on how your sales activity has changed as well since COVID?
Yeah, perhaps to share with everyone on some perspective on the housing or the development market in Malaysia and in Asia, generally speaking, because I cover for, of course, Marsing, we are predominantly a residential developer, but we also have a fair share of commercial development and industrial development. And my previous experience as well, I cover a lot in Asia real estate investments. Now, actually, for Malaysia, everybody knows, real estate is always a cycle. It's a 10-year cycle of going up and down. And over the last few sort of recessions, the downturn jumped back up pretty fast. In the financial crisis, it happened the downturn only happened for less than 1 year, and then rebounded really, really strongly for the last 2 crises. Now, this time around, the property downturn has already been, we've probably seen it for 4 years now. It is the longest so-called downturn for Malaysia. We have not seen a huge jump in values for real estate prices in Malaysia. The last jump was probably in 2013, 2014. And since then, property prices in Malaysia have not seen a jump. If you draw a chart of all the Asian real estate increase in values, the good thing about Malaysia is we are also the smallest. We are not like Hong Kong or even Singapore, which the curve is exponentially, more than 45-degree upwards. Malaysia, it's pretty slow. We average see a property bump of about 5% to 8% per annum. The only difference is after the last financial crisis in 2009, 2010, and the reality is every government in the world is printing money. Now, money as a way to find itself into hard assets, and real estate is the one that currently in the world, to 70% of the world's wealth is still hedged on real estate. So, it's naturally that real estate will see a huge jump during those periods. This current crisis where the government has suddenly, they do not have that amount of firepower to start printing so much money. But therefore, we've not seen a huge jump in our values for about almost 4 years. Whether or not prices have dropped and whether or not people will see prices will drop, prices has already dropped since 2018. You see, as you can, everybody, right? If you see just now, Alvin, you were saying that people has already been listing, a lot of people asking for below market rates and whatnot. We have already seen the discount. HOC in 2019 has already asked developers to give a 10% discount. And whatever properties that is able to sell in Malaysia are mostly, and I'll be very upfront, most of the transactions are affordable property, the segment that which us Massing we are in. Of course, there are lesser volume on high-end properties and stuff, and not to say it's not a totally dead market, but it is not as fast-moving as the more affordable segment. Whether or not we'll see a drop, as you can see, I would say this time around it is back. This pandemic is back. It hits every sector. There is no single sector that is not affected. The last one is the banking sector was affected. The previous one, the 2000 was a dot-com, so the technology sector was affected. This current times, everybody's affected. The good thing is we still have strong financial sectors. The governments are more prepared to tackle this. So straight away, all the governments in the world start pumping out huge amount of stimulus packages trying to prop up the economy. Whether or not it will sustain, this is again all up to us to kickstart the economy. So I would say if your question is whether or not prices to drop, we all don't want prices to drop because your livelihood is dependent on, in the US, the US market has a very strong economic indicator called the housing, it's called the housing market index. Yeah. The house price index. Yeah. All of Dow Jones, all the fund managers look at that index on how the US economy is growing. That index is actually updated every minute. Alvin put a very right point. The problem with Malaysian data is we are very, very slow. We do not have, every transaction is only updated 6 months later. So, are we in the best situation? We are not. But why is it the US market look at the house pricing index as such an important economic indicator? Because the housing market is tied, all of us is tied to SMEs or not, livelihoods. I mean, I'm sure Recommend.my, you have a lot of, like as you say, your cleaners, your contractors. The supply chain is tremendous tied to this housing sector. Right. So we need the sector or every other sector we need the economy to reopen. We need the engine to kickstart again. What happened 2 months ago was just the entire engine just ground to a halt.
Yeah, no, I think you brought a good point. I think the housing sector is one that is very heavily watched because it's got a huge multiplier on the economy. When we build things, when we build houses, we build highways, we build hotels, lots of people get jobs and the multiplier effect is huge, right? As for us, Recommend.my, I think during the week that MCO was announced, volumes dropped by 40%. And I think we all panic and say, what are we going to do? Let's pivot, let's innovate and stuff like that. And then 2 weeks later, volumes started to grow. And even today, right, I think we're many times, I think, above what we were even before the COVID level. So that's quite interesting, right? But, let's hear from Gadiy. I mean, Massing is targeting the more affordable homes, but you're saying that you focus on the luxury or the more high atas one.
Yeah,
how has your atas market been performing?
To be honest, actually, we've seen quite an uptick in terms of, let's just talk about visitors to our site. It's small number because we are targeting very niche. We don't really play around with Google AdWords, so a lot of our growth is purely organic. We do advertise on guys like iProp, Prop Guru, even EdgeProp also, to drive leads to our for phone calls. And ever since MCO started, we noticed that there had definitely been a slowdown. But a lot of our owners and sellers wanted to know what's going to happen. Buyers also are asking, hey, is the price going to be cheaper So it was a great opportunity for us to leverage on these touch points with our clients to introduce other properties, because most of the times when you look at mature markets, SS2, Taman Tun, Bandar Utama, it's very easy for one buyer to be swing to another site. Because let's look at it, right? The current marketplace for new projects is already in abundance. There's so-called an oversupply, but for existing secondary household, there's still a huge demand for popular areas, right? So somehow still we are able to manage. We do get inquiries, and our team has been constantly serving the buyers and the sellers in these markets. In terms of numbers post MCO, we actually managed to, our phone has been so-called ringing off the hook, appointments every day for most of our agents. So that's actually quite good news on our side. Nothing materialized yet. I can't share with you transaction numbers, but as far as showing goes, it's been very active post MCO.
Okay, I hope you're all like socially distanced and wearing your mask, you know.
Oh yeah,
as
yeah,
you are
yeah.
surveying your atas properties.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. We do have SOPs as people come into the house. We don't have more than 2 people at once. We also scan their temperature check, you know, give them gloves and masks, and also your alcohol wipes. So
Got
definitely
it. Okay.
safety is the priority.
Great. Okay, so apparently the atas market is coming back. How about you, Wei Meng? Your target is a little bit more in the affordable rental space,
Bawah
right?
market.
Bawah, right?
Not
You're the
bawah
bawah
market.
segment. How is it? Has it been very speedy in your area, or is it like slow?
Oh, I think what we see is almost similar to everyone what they said just now. I think on March 18, on March 19, our traffic is like fall off the cliff, like technically 70% drop just one day. You know, we dropped by 70%, and I think traffic start building up somewhere around May. So in May, our sales actually transactions went back to pre-COVID-19 already. So it's quite fortunate. I think June would be a better month. But what we have seen in the market is that in terms of rental yield, I think it has always been around 3.5 to 5-ish kind of level. But what in comparing to the 2018 or 2017, we have noticed the transaction data versus the asking price, the expectation gap was around 30%. So the landlords or the property owners are actually asking a lot higher. But recently, in the past few months, we have seen the gap has narrowed down to 8%. So I think the market has come to equilibrium in the sense where both market supply and demand kind of I presume it's because there are a lot of supply coming online, so the landlords are more open to the idea of reducing rent. I mean, for example, I'm still renting out one of my units as well, and what we have seen is that the market used to go somewhere around in my area was 3,500 in terms of area. Right now, they are looking, most of the tenants coming in, the budget is around 3,000, 3,200. So we can see a compression in terms of rental. But generally, I think rental is still a strong market in the mass market. In the higher end market, I think rental would be significantly slower. That's what
I see.
see.
So who are these people renting? Because previously we had people who couldn't afford a home renting. We had expats, you know, the atas ones and the bawah ones, right? Expats of all ranges. But in recent months, a lot of them also have been sent back to their own countries. So when you say rentals are strong, who are these people who are renting?
So I think in the local market, generally there's no impact specifically to the local market. The high-end market, I think that's why we can see there's a compression of price, where in the past 3,500 can rent it out, can lease it out quite easily. Right now, it's gone down to 3,002. So the inquiries also slow down significantly on the atas market. So I think that is a big challenge there. Generally, where I see the inquiries coming on, we have seen, for example, I think during this MCO, that generally there's no incoming of new expats. So generally, we are recycling whatever that we have in the market right now. So we don't see a growth from there. But in fact, when an expat trying to move, I think they are very aware of the situation and they will be a tougher negotiator right now. So that's what we see at the atas market right now. In terms of existing rental market, we see that so far, I think we have around, I think our landlords gave out around close to 400,000 in rental relief to bridge this entire pandemic. So I think it says a lot about it. I mean, if the loan moratorium gonna end, I think that we will start seeing a lot of issues, especially for the tenant. In terms of defaults, we have see a spike in terms of tenants simply ending the lease earlier by saying they couldn't afford it anymore or they lost the job. It jumped by double. So yeah. I think it's, yeah.
Okay, so this is a very interesting market because we are saying that property prices, they could be plateauing, but there's, it's not taking a deep dive. We haven't seen a surge in fire sales, mostly because like Benjamin mentioned, they have been being corrected or adjusted along the years anyway. It was never like, it had a huge spike and now it's going down, right? So if property prices are kind of like there, but we see the demand for rental, for example, being quite compressed by all the expats going home and also people saying, hey, I cannot pay, can you, reduce my rental by half, or can you, negotiate my rental, then yields are bound to drop. So now this is a very interesting space, right? And a lot of you who are watching us are either property investors or property, people who are interested in the rental market as well, right? So it comes to my second question. Knowing that COVID-19 has now changed the face of the game, right? And all of you agree that it's a very impactful thing to the property space. What have you done within your company that has, really innovated or changed the way that you operate? I don't know, maybe Wei Ming can start first and then Gadiy, and then we work our ways backward.
Yeah, so for us, I think when we look at COVID-19, when it started in Wuhan, internally we have started piloting on taking videos on all the houses that we have keys to as a pilot. Fortunately, we start building up all these videos. So when the MCO was announced, I think around 200 over properties on our platform comes with video. So that helps with transaction. A lot of them simply by watching the video and then just pay a booking fee. What we did was we offer 3 days full refund upon moving in. If the tenant finds the house is significantly different or within a unreasonably different from the video, we offer that a guarantee. So I think it reduces the psychological impact of renting a house that they don't like, right? So we basically launched that, and it was really helpful. I think a lot of transactions, majority of our transactions during April was mainly done through video without physical viewing. And I think moving forward, do I see this as a trend? I don't really think it will be the de facto way of renting house anymore, because I think people are still having the tendency to view the physical house. However, I mean, if the pandemic prolongs to 6 months, and assuming things are not, which now is improved, but if things will prolong further, I think it will become the norm. It's not long enough to build a habit or people get the fear of viewing physically, because people still want to see the real thing. So I think what we see is that the video certainly I think, so 40% of our bookings came from the video. yeah, that's basically what we see during the MCO period.
No, that's interesting. Okay, so you're saying that people are willing to, rent a property that they have not seen in real life before. Now, on the sales side, right, Benjamin, do we see this trend also happening? So Masing, I read a report that Masing managed to sell 35 billion ringgit worth of homes in 1 week during the MCO, right? And this is a lot more complex than selling flour or cooking products online. So how did you guys do that?
Well, the real number is we did about 350 million bookings over the last 60 days of the MCO period. And as I said, it's bookings 350 million. We really need to quickly reinvent the way we do things, predominantly in the past. Actually, just now before we went live, we were talking about, okay, now we have to go online and digitalize, why businesses are closing. I think the trend is already there. The digital trend was already there. This COVID pandemic just fast-tracked the whole thing. So we had to quickly change the way we do things. In the past, very much like what Wei Ming shared, where we, in order for us to sell our property, of course we were digital as well, but we had a lot of physical presence to try to get new customers. We had road shows, we had, of course, a lot of events where people come to the gallery. And over the last 2 months, all these just suddenly came to a grinding halt. The encouraging thing is, did it stop people's desire to want to buy a house? And clearly, for what we have seen, it did not. And this phenomenon did not just happen to us. Many other developers also had similar issues of getting so-called encouraging bookings online. I think first and foremost, we need to understand. I mean, we're talking about real estate today. Whether or not people want to buy or whether people want to rent, I want to take a step back. There will still be the demand that people need real estate. You still need a roof over your head. Now, during this period where there are more promotions, there are more engagement online, and people are just sitting at home, we just found ways to connect to our customer faster. Going digital is one of them. I mean, like whatever Wei Ming shared, 360, we had everything, you name it. We were you name it, 360 videos. Facebook Live, we were on all the mainstream digital channels, Zoom meetings, events. We had our phone calls. We were never disconnected with our customers. We just found ways to connect with them, whether or not is it via Zoom or whatever that is possible. We did not distance ourselves from them. I think that is what the thing that we did. It is not social distancing. We just physically distance ourselves from them, but we are still socially connected to them. I think that is the key difference of what we did. And thankfully, the demand is still there. I would like to share a little bit more in the sense that actually the real estate market was on verge of recovery. Towards 2019, I think, Jasmine, you mentioned earlier on, 2019, hey, things were picking up. Everybody was, we have not seen values picking up. Values are going up a little bit. But I'm sure, all your black platforms, Bumbung or Speedhome or EdgeProp, you had a lot of listings. People were inquiries, rentals were up. And 2019 and 2020, we all expected a not a recovery, but a boom. That's all it was, right? COVID-19 just put this off track. Is the momentum and the needs are still there? The intent, desire of investment or even growth, whether is it in rental or buying, it is still there. Just that this thing is so sudden, it threw everybody off the track. So hopefully the sooner we come back online, and the sooner we all can creep back up to the growth targets that we're looking for.
Interesting that you mentioned that. So 350 million of bookings, right, in the last 60 days. Is that high or low compared to what you would do if you will be able to see people?
We'll definitely do more if we manage to see people.
Okay, so is this 50% of your usual sales? Is that 30%?
I think
what is it?
It would be approximately, we usually do, you see, each quarter for bookings, we usually hit it's probably about 40% less than what we can usually do. I'm talking about bookings. Get conversion. I mean, of course, getting the banks to give them the loans, or whether or not the buyers can get financing, that's a separate issue. I mean, this is a separate big topic we need to talk about, but but the
okay, that's not bad.
to buy
That's not bad. So, Wei, with the same kind of spirit, right? With your virtual, I've seen some of your virtual videos and all that, right? How many % of the loss have you made up with all this virtual stuff?
Sorry,
with all your with all your live videos and doing things, virtually and all that, how many % of the lost bookings have you been able to make up? Say, if you used to do like 100 transactions, how many transactions could you do digitally, fully digitally?
I would say probably 40% to 50%.
That's not bad. That's pretty consistent actually with what the F&B players have been reporting, that they're able to make up with deliveries and all that. That's interesting. Alvin, are you seeing the same kind of stuff as well?
Well, whether the digital initiatives that we've been doing, I guess the question is whether it impacts our revenue, right? I think yes and no. Our main sources of revenue are still ads, sponsorship and subscriptions. And I don't expect us to suddenly, shoot videos for a living or become a digital agency. But I suppose it is some form of vertical integration. In order to get the ad revenue, we need to deliver leads. And in order to deliver leads, we need to do all those things. So I think the additional things we do on its own may not create the revenue, but it does help our main revenue drivers more compelling. It does make our proposition more compelling. But of course, if you look at stuff like virtual awards, then yes, the answer is yes, because it directly helped us deliver the value that we promised to our sponsors. Because if we are not able to do a physical award or awards or any physical events, then we lose the sponsors. So by taking it online, then we hold on to the sponsors. So it depends on the type of things we do. Yeah.
I see. So I think a lot of the innovations is about moving physical transactions online, right? Which is, you can say, it could be an innovation, but it's really not rocket science. These things have been around for quite some time. It's just that now you cut off one channel, so customers have no choice but to go towards the other channel, right? The showroom's closed now, what to do? Have you guys seen, either in Malaysia or anywhere in the region, really innovative new ideas? For example, I was just reading about this platform in the US. Now there's a lot of people who are a little bit pressured and they need to release their properties. Some of them bank foreclosures and stuff like that. A platform to do bidding online for properties that are let go. Have you seen new ideas like that in the market?
Well, I have seen a lot of platforms that are doing right now. It's basically the platform, it's the one that's buying. They basically have their transaction data on a live real-time basis. So whenever you offer your house, they can make a decision within a day and then buy over your house. And basically they will flip it. It's like selling cars, selling to car agents, and then the agents will sell it out. So right now there are platforms, there are quite a lot of platforms in the UK and the US where they basically be the buyer. So you can offload your properties within a day. And then basically they will give you a price. Whether you take it or not, it's up to you.
I remember Maybank doing some own your home or home to own or own to home, something like that, where they were literally rent to own.
House key.
Sorry.
Rent to own.
House key, right? House key. And the bank really committed to bringing all this inventory onto their balance sheet, and then they rent it to you with some kind of buyback arrangement. I think there was also a question. There was there's another question from one of our audience as well, like FMH. Is that happening? I thought that was a bad word, FMH. Is somebody saying something, then I realized it's Fund My Home. So these kind of interesting things where you put the risk really with the bank, obviously for higher rentals, have they been working at all? Are they changing the world in any way?
House key is actually quite an innovative product and actually we work very closely with Maybank on this house key product. Essentially, it's also part of the government and the bank's push to help first-time home buyers own a home. And it is a sense that where the banks will also do the assessment. Maybank will do the assessment on the project that you have done, and they only work with reputable developers because they know that the developers would be able to deliver the project. It's not going to be abandoned. The values are correct. It's not going to be like simply overpriced and give a lot of rebates. That is a huge thing, a huge problem in the market. So these are solid, genuine, good projects, and the bank is willing, if they found a potential buyer, and the potential buyer, of course, during this troubled time, they're worried about their cash flow. So the banks will say, look, okay, I'll buy it first. We sign an agreement with you. Within 5 years, you have to convert to a loan. And the bank have done their assessment to say that, hey, this is actually very low risk. In fact, the buyer will continue to pay a rental. It's like a form of their installment. And within the 5 years, they will convert to a normal mortgage, and then the bank can exit via that model. So this is a fantastic platform to help buyers own the property without the need of the initial cost. What the problem that we face at the moment for people buying is the initial cost of buying a property. It's high. You have to pay your down payments, 10% down payment. Let's say you can buy a 500,000 home, it's 50% down payment. So it is the initial cost that is maybe deterring a lot of people wanting to buy right now. They want to buy, but maybe they can't fund the 50,000. So this scheme is a really good scheme. Of course, what it does is your overall interest charge or financing charge will be a bit longer, but it solves the problem of that initial cost that the buyers have to pay. So yeah, we do a lot of housekeeping. Right.
And has it been taking off, or is it mostly just positioning?
No. That thing has been already running. As you can see, if you go onto our Marsing websites, you will see that we have the house key, the partnership with Maybank is there. If you go to our galleries and some of our projects, especially the house key, we already push out house key to some of our potential customers.
Interesting. Alvin, you also run something, Fund My Home, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think Benjamin is correct there. I think moving forward, we should see more creative ways to tackle home affordability. I think a familiar refrain across the board is that homes are unaffordable, and this is just not it's not just in Malaysia, but in many countries around the world. Of course, the simplistic answer is to reduce prices or increase salaries, but as the reality is not that simple. And I think fundamentally, people want to own their homes. The problem is that for many young people today, they are essentially locked out of the mortgage market, right? If you look at the rent-to-own schemes today, they still need to get a loan. But the problem is that I think young people today, they are more financially complex, right? I mean, many of them have multiple income streams. Many work in the gig economy and they have no fixed income. They sell on Shopee, right? And with all the retrenchments that are happening now, it may be more difficult to secure a permanent job. So it's very hard to get a mortgage and climb on the property ladder. So now it's almost binary, right? Like it's black or white. Either you rent or you've been able to get a mortgage and buy a house. So I think moving forward, what we need is more alternative home ownership schemes, be it shared equity, fractional ownership, or even some unique form of rent-to-own arrangements. It could be from the private sector or even the public sector. So this provides like a bridge, right, that allows you, to grow and have that savings plan, right, that's aligned to the market to help you kind of make that leap into home ownership. Now, I think the question is basically examples of platforms like this, right? I think fractional ownership is not something new. As Wei Meng has pointed out, there are iBuying platforms. That is another model. But in the US, you have DV Homes, for example, who turns your monthly rents into down payment. You have Unison, a company who basically co-invests with home buyers. So I think when we launched Fund My Home over a year ago, it was the first and perhaps the only shared equity scheme. And I think to that extent, we have delivered a proof of concept to show that such schemes can work for the home buyers. But whether the returns for potential investors are attractive enough to scale is something that needs to be worked out. So for example, in Fund My Home, it wasn't, for us, we weren't able to scale, not because there's a shortage of home buyers who want to go onto the scheme, but it's because because there is a shortage of investors who are willing to fund the kind of homes for the kind of returns that we are offering. But I think that being said, I truly believe that first-time home buyers, today must get some assistance, to get into the property market, because I think getting into the property market is good for them. It is good for the property market, and it's good for the economy. Jasmine, you pointed out that the multiplier effects are enormous. So I think there are better ways to assist first-time home buyers, than just bringing down prices and causing everyone's property price to drop, just to make it seemingly cheaper or easier to get into the market.
So essentially, you're saying that the fundamentals don't need to be fixed, right? I don't know. I think many people will agree/disagree with that. I read about many people's point of view is that you should not help them if there's a demand or supply imbalance, right? In any other market, you wouldn't worry about it so much. You just let the prices go down, right? But for the property market, it's very tough, right? Property companies are very big. They have very big lobbying powers, right? They have a lot of friends in the government. So people are a little bit resentful that.
I think
supply, too many, then the price should go down, right?
I don't think it's an issue of property developers lobbying to keep prices high or anything. I think for primary markets, you may already be seeing more rebates and flexible payment terms, right? But in terms of a wholesale reduction in selling price, I personally don't think that's going to happen, because I think the property sector, right, has very little barrier to entry, right? So developers, they compete. It's not like there's one monopolizing developers. They compete in a relatively, I would say, efficient and open market to sell their properties. So, if prices could be lowered to meet demand, it would have happened. I was just having a discussion with a friend who's an analyst, and essentially we're talking about this rubber glove prices, right? And the margins are now so high. So chances are, when people see such 100% margins, for example, there will be new players coming into the market and then kind of bringing prices down. And I think the similar argument applies also to the property development market. There are a lot of players out there, and if somebody can just come in and just slash price and sell their properties, we would have seen that already. So I don't think it's that. It's basically, I don't think it's a cartel that basically keeps prices high. But of course, secondary market is a different story. Most of the costs are already sunk. And while it's unlikely to see fire sales like in previous crises, I do expect property owners to be more realistic in terms of pricing and more willing to reduce their asking prices.
Okay.
Yeah,
so if you had like,
so actually, Alvin, just to add on to your last point of having property owners to lower down the price, that's one of the trends that we've been seeing across board from some of our owners. They're more willing to be open to an offer. Now it's almost, you can say any price that they are more comfortable with.
It's a buyer's market.
Absolutely, yeah, spot on.
So for you, Gadiy, the buyer's market, how many % have you seen the sellers being flexible with? At first, it's like 100,000, and are they dropping? Say, okay, like 85, you take it, I take it now. Is it kind of like that? Is it 50%?
I can honestly tell you it's between 15 to 30%.
15 to 30, even in the atas market.
In the atas market,
Interesting.
because, for example, you take any land value in Tropicana or even Country Heights, you really know the prices for those places are very on high. So if I just shave off 150K for you, it's going to be a small amount compared to already you have to pay up 6 million 5 million
Yeah.
for that one piece of property. So
it's very similar to anything. The higher the value, the atas market is the one that you see the bigger discount.
the bigger discount, correct. But
Yeah.
The affordable one is so cheap. You know, how much more?
the affordable one, no change lah, unfortunately.
This is the atas one. It's almost like they're saying the difference is just a rounding figure, right? It's just a pocket change for me. So yeah, just take it. Just take it.
What's 1 million?
Yeah, what's 1 million? It's just a bunch of zeros. Yeah. How about you, Wei Ming? Sorry, Wei Ming. I keep getting your name wrong. How many? I mean, you have many tenants now going to their owners and say, "Ayo, I got no income now. Please give me some rental reduction." What is that percentage in rental reduction? I think we have somebody asking here.
Around 15%.
Okay, 15%. Interesting. So the number is between 15 and 30.
Yeah. So I think generally, it's depend on the what sector they are working in. So for example, flight attendant models, some landlords actually waive the entire rental for 2 months, simply because they know for a fact that they are heavily impacted. But the rest normally is between 15%. Extreme cases would, for example, in the travel industry, they would give a total waiver because they know for a fact they can't pay at all.
Oh, that makes sense. We have a question from the audience. They're saying now that a lot of people are moving their time spent in the office and moving them to the home instead, with this whole work from home thing, how do you see things change? Actually, even on the recommend.my platform, we've been seeing a lot of people asking, hey, how do I convert my study to a little, office work from home? Can I have nicer desks, nicer chairs? Even recently, I saw that IKEA has been able to sell a lot of their work chairs, right? Which previously people didn't need, but now they're spending a lot of time at home. What do you guys, what are trends that you see happening? More Sohos, maybe?
You know what, that is... Sohos has been like the thing that everybody stays away. Even banks are like, oh no more financing for Sohos for so long. For over the last 2018, 2019, people stay away. And all of a sudden with this COVID thing, maybe I don't want to go into a co-working space. Before this, right? Before COVID, everybody was, the co-working space is the next is the greatest thing. It's going to change the way people go to offices and stuff like that. Bang! All of a sudden, these people are starting to get, I need additional funding to survive. It's definitely going to change the way we work. Although, yes, it's a short time. Eventually, for a lot of brick and mortar business, we still need to go back to the office. But a lot of what Alvin pointed out, a lot of people are in the gig economy. And those people in this will be beginning to think that, hey, actually, I can actually work from home. I can save the rental. I can convert my little room into a little office. To do something. Definitely it will change. Office developers, retail developers are really rethinking the way we design our buildings. For residential developers, we are also quickly rethinking the way we develop our buildings. Big picture, one thing's for sure, real estate is here to stay. But only thing is what kind of real estate, how your real estate will look like, big or small. All of a sudden where there were trends of apartments getting smaller and smaller because of the affordability, of course. But now all of a sudden, a lot of the baby boomers and people before the baby boomers are getting older. They don't want to stay in landed homes for security purposes. They are looking for bigger apartments. Now with this, the baby boomers say, hey, I can live in a bigger apartment. So whether or not I can have a home office in a bigger apartment, so straight away we need to rethink all this. But yes, it will definitely affect not just for residential, but a lot of how our commercial space, our office spaces will be designed and developed. This is something that we really need to prepare. I mean, look at London. London office was actually climbing up. All of a sudden, it's still about 30-40% of vacancy in London office space. Of course, people are bullish that after COVID, things will recover. London will always be London. But people are rethinking the way the office spaces are being designed. Is co-working space the real thing, or is it a fluff? So
yeah, I mean, and just to add on to Benjamin's point, I personally won't change my buying preferences right now. I mean, because property is a big ticket item. So, I mean, what I'm saying is that if for the next 2 or 3 years, I spend 3 days a week working from home, then yes, if I do buy a home, proximity to work may not be as important a criteria as it is currently. I'll probably find a place where I can have a nice home office instead of, say, working from my dining table. So
yeah, so that's interesting, right? So one of the trends I've been trying to predict, right, is that two things really, that services will now start to previously people congregated at hotels, they congregated at restaurants, they congregated at salons and all that. I think that is actually going to shift a lot to people, to services moving to people instead. It's a lot safer, and I think the polls have shown that people prefer one single hairdresser to come to their home because they can kind of like contain him, right, and spray him down and kind of make sure he's got mask and take his temperature, rather than stepping to a salon where you could be exposed to anyone really. So people prefer services coming to the home. So we kind of predict a more distributed services model, which is quite interesting. And the second one is that homes will start to become bigger and nicer. So, in previous like 20, 30 years, you see homes in Hong Kong and Tokyo getting smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Because people spend so much time in the offices. But now I think people are going to start, paying more attention to their home, making sure their homes are livable and nice. And maybe moving further, a little bit further away so that they can afford more space, a garden. I certainly appreciated having a garden a lot more in this MCO period, right? So that's the two things that we are noticing. Okay, we are approaching 5:30 now. Maybe a word of advice from each of you. If you had some money now, assuming theoretically, with my very complicated revenue stream, I've got 200,000 ringgit. Oh, okay lah, maybe that's a bit too little. 800,000 ringgit. Would you buy something right now? Is now a good time, or should we wait for 2 more months for Masing to give a little bit more discounts?
You buy now. While I'm here, I give you additional rebate.
Wow.
We'll hold you to that, huh?
A promo code, right? Just for the viewers.
Yeah. Ben Ong promo code.
Yeah, put your name
Add to
below and
checkout.
we'll get special promo code just for viewers of this video.
Yeah, buy now.
So what do you think?
Who wants to go
Buy
first?
now?
Gadiy lah.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody there to say.
No.
I think my advice, if you do have the money, is definitely to buy now, but be as picky as possible lah, because you need to look for the low-hanging fruits, right? And turn them, and for you to get back your return. Also, what kind of investor are you? Are you the one that likes the rental yield, or are you the one that, I want to buy and then flip? Because there is multiple ways of going. So if you have the money, 800K, I think you still can buy in the atas areas, your Damansara Utama, your okay, I don't think Taman Dun got anymore, but like your SS2 PJ area, you still can buy a house, landed link house at those prices. But of course, the property is dilapidated lah. You don't expect to buy with really nice things. If you want to buy and get it nicely done, that's why Jasmine is here lah. You recommend to help do that.
I was just gonna say. we'll make it really nice for you.
Correct. Just go ahead and buy, because I don't know if you've been paying attention. A lot of people who still appreciate like the finer things when it comes to architecture, they really want to do. And what more so, I think you're spot on your prediction, Jasmine. People are going to spend longer times at home, more quality time, and they want more breathable, livable space. Like you said, you appreciate your garden now. I wish I had a house. I'll be staying in a house, enjoying my garden also. But at the same time, yeah, so that would be my advice for those who can really afford it. Go start hunting around and find those like really good deals. And you can't just find it online. I mean, like a lot of property portals are marketing a lot of properties, but the really good ones are not there. The really good ones are in your agent's pocket. They won't post it out online because they're very scared that other people will steal. So speak to your agents, drive around, talk to aunties, ask them, hey, around your neighborhood got house for rent, got house for sale, I want to buy. Things like that. Don't be ashamed, because some of them like, oh yeah, I heard they all move overseas already. They're in Melbourne now. I can connect you with the owner. Wow, there you go. You just have yourself a really good deal. And those are the deals that I would recommend people to go out and hunt for, because if you got 800K, you want to make the best bang for your buck. That's one way to go about it.
Great advice.
Or you can speak to any one of our Bumbung agents. We can also assist you.
Okay, you share the ones in the pocket as well, yeah? Not just the ones on the platform.
Oh, of course. All our agents really go all out for the buyers. Of course, the buyer had to be serious, right? We do vet the buyers to see where you're working. You send us your name card. But if you're Tom, Dick, and Harry, we ask some questions to filter out who these guys are before serving them all the way. But,
got it.
Yeah.
Any of you? Alvin, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask me if it's going to be a buyer's market, definitely. I think with HOC in place, we can expect more and more rebates and incentives for home buyers. And with the RPGT exemption also, there might be more sellers in the market. So we can expect owners to be more realistic in terms of pricing. I think the only thing is whether will people still buy, right? And I think it was Job Street that did a survey, and said 20% of respondents have lost their jobs. I don't know what the sample size is. It does seem a bit high, but I think it's safe to say that when people are concerned about losing their jobs, buying a home is probably not their top priority. And even if we buy, I think we touched on that a bit earlier, that will their preferences change? And I think in real estate, the mantra had always been location, location, location. But given what we've seen over the last couple of months, whether this is still valid, and already we can see that a lot of businesses are allowing their staff to work from home, and more workers are getting used to it. And I do think that these habits will persist even after we come out of this pandemic. So I think this whole proximity to work may no longer be a big factor in deciding where to live. If you said, I think a message to property investors is that during this time, especially, always start with why you're investing. Is it for your own stay, rental yield, or capital gains? Always do your own research, because now you see so many so-called gurus out there who will tell you wow, where to invest, invest in 10% yield every year guaranteed, stuff like that. And I think the takeaway or for me personally is that if someone knows a way of making money, right, he's not going to spend his time trying to tell the world how to make money, right? He's definitely going to spend his time making money, unless you are his way of making money. So I think keep that in mind, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Ben, any advice?
Well, if I were to gaze into the crystal ball, and this is just my prediction, if you look at the charts of the last 20 years, there's one thing that is certain: inflation. Inflation is always there. And if you look at the charts, every time the government goes on a fiscal policy and basically printing money, you will see a huge jump in property prices, because, like I said, at the end of the day, money will find somewhere to go, and it will always go into hard assets, right? So again, and I'm not saying this because I'm representing Martin. I genuinely, I'm going to sound a little bit like your father in the sense that if you can afford, inflation will always go to real estate. This is something for sure. You need to hedge your inflation. And this is what my father told me. You need to hedge against inflation. Whether or not that real estate will be a good investment, this is up to you. You really need to see, you need to know your math, you need to calculate your yield. But as a hedge against inflation, and this is why property prices cannot come down anymore. Whether or not you can go to the streets, the moment property prices start going backwards, we will be going back to the dark ages. This will be a world recession. Forget about buying property. You will not even have a job. You wouldn't know where your income is going to come from. And this is that bleak. Real estate prices going up. Every time you see real estate prices going up and you're kicking and screaming there, is when everybody is enjoying some sort of upside. And either your salaries increase. Nowadays, we complain about property prices going up. Why sitting Starbucks sipping our coffee? We're complaining in comfort. Most of us, of course, there are people who need to have affordable real estate. But if you can afford, save up and start planning. When I say planning, is of course those people who are in the gig economy, it's a bit more complex trying to get a loan right now. Banks are more stringent in checks. You need to have good credit record. Go and seek proper advice, not from those fake gurus, but from real, people who are genuinely can advise you to how you get good credit score in order for you to get a loan, in order to get an asset. And this is not for investment or anything, but to hedge against inflation. When you grow old, what's going to happen? Don't have the YOLO kind of lifestyle. But if you look, like I said, going back to what I said in the beginning, if you look at the charts, every time there is a huge stimulus package by the government, when things recover, there's so much liquidity in the market, where do you think they go? Now it's in the stock market, as you can see. Dow Jones and Nasdaq hit all-time high. Malaysia, all of a sudden, being the worst stock market over the last 5 years, all of a sudden now, this year onwards, we are the darling of Asia. Money is going to flow somewhere. After the stock market, hey, where do you think it's going to go? So
true. Well, Wei Ming, any sharing from the rental side?
Well, I mean, rental, I'm a proponent of rental, but obviously when you think of rental, someone must buy in order to lease it out, right?
Exactly.
So it's the same thing, right? So there's no such thing as you should rent or you should buy, because someone needs to buy before it can be leased out. So I think if we look at how ultra-politan like New York and others, where it's a lot of them are property managers, where it's by family funds and all those things. And I think moving forward, while the property price would be, I don't think it's coming down. I think it was still going up, as Ben mentioned just now. I would say that some people would decide that, well, property is no longer within my affordability and I would be renting forever. And there are people that are, rich, that can buy houses like vegetables, and they will be the landlords, right? And I think that's how we see in the metropolitan, where there's a family funds in buying buildings and rent it out to tenants. People will still buy, just that the target or the audience that buy houses is no longer just retail, right? It's going towards the top tier of the family funds or REITs or whatnot. So I think those are the markets that we are looking at. So if we are looking at rental yield, there are still, from our statistics, we can see my colleague was trying to look for a house to buy, and he ran through some rental yield and found few condos that are actually positive cash flow if you buy right now. So if you have 800,000, pretty sure again it's hedging inflation, and on top of that you get a positive cash flow out of it. I think it's a good bet. So you just need to find where you just need to do the homework like my colleague did.
Yeah. So after this, I'm going to message each one of you and say, give me the listings in your pocket. Yeah. Okay, so everyone, the summary is residential properties are still in demand. There are still people buying out there. There are good deals, both for sales and rentals out there. Look for them, negotiate hard. Even if they're further away from the city center, demand is moving outwards, right? And always remember, if you buy some rundown, crappy property in a good location, you can use our recommend.my interior designers and contractors to make them fabulous and increase the rental and purchase price. Well, thank you so much to all of you. You have brought many great insights and we really appreciate it. Again, everyone, we have Benjamin Ong from Marsing Group, Alvin from EdgeProp, Gadiy from Bumbung, and Wei Ming from Speedhome. So check these platforms out. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll be uploading the video on our page soon when it's ready. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.